Welcome to the discussion video on the first part of government accounting. Chapter 1 or Module 1 is the overview of government accounting. At the end of the module, we will be able to differentiate government accounting from the accounting for business entities. We state the government entities charged with accounting responsibility. We describe briefly GAM for NGAs. GAM is Government Accounting Manual for national government agencies. State the basic principles used in government accounting and state the recognition criteria for assets. So, what does government accounting um, means in auditing the Philippine government? Well, government accounting encompasses the processes of analyzing, recording, classifying, summarizing, and communicating all transactions involving the receipt and disposition of government funds and property and interpreting the results thereof, as stated in the State Audit Code, which is the basis of the Government Accounting Manual. Essentially, the government accounting is the same as that of the financial accounting catered to private entities, except the subject, because we are auditing a specific industry, which is the government or the state or the Philippine state. So what are the objectives of institutionalizing a separate accounting for government agencies? One is to produce information concerning past operations and present conditions. Second is to provide a basis for guidance for future operations. Next is to provide for control of the acts of public bodies and officers in the receipt, disposition, and utilization of funds and property. Next is to report on the financial position and the results of the operations and of government agencies for the information of all persons concerned. Kasi nga, because of the volume of transactions and the enormity of the transactions and the uniqueness of on the use of um, accounting procedures in the government, dapat meron tayong separate government accounting manual that will encompass all the process of analyzing, recording, classifying, summarizing, and communicating yung mga financial transactions natin. At in the government accounting manual, it is specifically delineated yung mga responsibilities ng government bodies at yung mga officers in charge of um, officers and the directors in charge with governing a particular government agency. Okay. So what are the sources of the government funds? First, yung taxes. Yan ang lifeblood of the government. Kung walang taxes, wala tayong gagamiting funds to operate and to accomplish the projects na naka-indicate sa ating appropriation acts. There are other fees, borrowings, and grants from other government and international bodies. So when we say utilization, it means yung paggamit ng funds. Yung funds, when it is converted into a expenditure, it is said that it is utilized. Expenditures on programs, projects, unanticipated losses from calamities, and others. So, what are the responsibility, accountability, and liability over government funds and property? When we look at responsibility, it is the responsibility that the officers are entrusted with the efficient utilization and effective discharge of the government resources in accordance with the law. Kaya nga, it is specifically indicated in the manual that the head of a government agency is directly responsible in implementing the policy and primarily responsible for the resources entrusted to that agency. Kaya nga, merong mga ano diyan, mga yung property custodian, so merong mga accountability reports. Kumbaga, bawat isang government employee, kung binigyan ka ng personal computer or laptop, merong codes na naka-indicate diyan. So that whenever there are loss or negligence na on the part of the employee ay specifically identified natin kung sino ang dapat na mag-shoulder ng loss at mag-bear nung mga expenses related to the loss of property or damages to property. All those who are exercising authority over a government agency shall share fiscal responsibility. So when we say naman accountability, a government officer entrusted with the possession of government resources is responsible for the safekeeping therefore. The transfer of government funds from one officer to another shall be made only after the authorization of the Commission on Audit. Kasi uh, whenever there are retirement, whenever there are promotion, yung mga assets na uh, naka in custody of one permanent employee ay nalilipat yan, napapasa yan on the basis of the position. So kung nalipat yung position on the other, dapat lahat ng assets related to that ay malipat din. So hindi pwedeng dadalhin niya yun on the next position. Yun yung sinasabi diyan. So any loss or damages related to that will be shouldered by the accountable officer or yung kung saan naka-enlist yung property na yun. The liability over government funds and property, the unlawful use of government resources shall be the personal liability of the employee found to be directly responsible therefore. Every accountable officer shall be liable for all losses resulting from the unlawful use or negligence in the safekeeping of government resources. So bakit natin tinitingnan ito? Because yung liability, accountability, and responsibility, this has bearing on the accounting. Kasi naka-indicate yan sa liability portion or mga receivable portions ng ating financial statement. So, dapat alam natin kung kanino naka-accountable or kaninong accountable officer naka-enlist yung mga properties na yan. Kaya ito ang introductory part of government accounting. Siniset natin yung restrictions and limits. Okay, pinapakita na natin yung mga general rules on accountability of properties kasi normally yan naman talaga ang naka-indicate on the financial statements, more of receivables and liability accounts. So no accountable officer shall be relieved from liability merely because he has acted under the discretion of a superior officer in lawful utilizing the government resources entrusted to him, unless he has been notified the superior officer in writing that the utilization is illegal. The superior officer shall be primarily liable, while the accountable officer who fails to serve the required notice shall be secondarily liable. So ini-indicate lang niya yung liabilities, 'di ba? So although meron kang superior, uh, meron ka pa ring secondary liability kasi nga hindi mo na report properly yung illegal utilization of the funds or disposal of properties. An accountable officer shall immediately notify the Commission on Audit for any loss of government funds from unforeseen events within 30 days. Failure to do so will not relieve the officer of liability. Okay. So technical yung mga items dito kasi nililift siya directly dun sa mismong presidential decree, sa mismong audit code. Okay. So what is the reason why ini-emphasize natin ito? The main concept here is that government resources must be utilized efficiently and effectively in accordance with the law. The officials are responsible in implementing the policy, are accountable for the government resources in their custody, and are liable for any losses. So kung meron kang nakitang losses related to that, ay isi-set up natin yan as a liability, as a receivable account from that officer. And normally, yung mga nakaset up na mga receivable account na yan ay tinitingnan natin yan through the aging of receivables. May specific due dates na naka-indicate per receivable classification. Halimbawa, accounts receivable or receivable from officer, under the manual, meron lang yung may age yan kung kailan dapat yan makollect. And para doon sa mga accounts na sobrang for example, retiring ang isang officer, pwede natin i-deduct yan doon sa retirement pay or sa kung magkano man yung magiging final separation pay nung permanent employee na yan. pwede natin siyang ibawas doon sa kanyang final separation of pay. Kaya ang mga government employees ay talagang tinitingnan din nila yan mabuti, especially when they are retiring, kasi baka merong mga receivable uh, accounts na nakaset up sa kanila na pwede nating ibawas on their retirement. Okay. We look at the accounting responsibility. So the following officers are charged with government accounting responsibility. So the orientation on under government accounting ay isa kang accountant. You are the government accountant of a of a national government agency. So ganyan ang orientation on the discussion of government accounting. Ikaw ay isang government accountant. So ano ang responsibility mo? Ito 'yon. Ang responsibility mo ay sa mga offices na ito, sa Commission on Audit, Department of Budget and Management, the Bureau of Treasury, and the government agencies. So ano-ano mga responsibility ang meron ka dyan? You can read some items, the COA, the DBM, the Bureau of Treasury, the government agencies as indicated here. I will discuss using the paradigm. The financial reporting system of a national government agency. So ito ka. Ikaw ay isang accountant ng isang government agency. So basahin lang natin. Each entity maintains accounting books and budget registries. Okay. So meron kang accounting books and budget registries. Itong budget registries ay madidiscuss natin on the succeeding portions kasi ito ay iba, unlike when you are in a private institution. So sa government, merong mga tinatawag na mga budget registries. Okay? Based on the national budget yan. Accounting books, alam na alam mo na yan. Yung mga financial journals, ledgers, financial statements, which are the income statement, balance sheet. So yung mga normal accounts. Later, we will indicate one by one. So tingnan mo muna kung papaano ang financial reporting in the national government. So ikaw ay isang government agency, ikaw ay accountant ng isang government agency. Ang responsibility mo ay doon sa tatlo. So balikan nga natin yung kanina. COA, DBM, and Bureau of Treasury. Government agencies, yung mga ibang agency yan. Okay. So sa Bureau of Treasury, anong responsibility mo? Each entity reconciles accounting books with cash records of Bureau of Treasury. Okay. Yung entity na tinutukoy dyan ay ikaw yon. Okay. Nire-reconcile mo yung accounting books with the cash records. Bakit? Kasi si Bureau of Treasury ay siya yung it functions under the DBM and is the cash custodian of the government. So lahat ng pera ng government ay nasa Bureau of Treasury. Wala po sa BIR, wala po sa Department of Finance, but nasa Bureau of Treasury. Bureau of Treasury is under Department of Finance. So anong responsibility niya? The BTR is authorized to receive and keep national funds and manage and control the disbursement thereof. Maintain accounts of financial transactions and of all national government offices, agencies, and instrumentalities. So lahat yung cash custodian of the government is the Bureau of Treasury. Minsan kasi ay napagbabaliktad yan. Akala nila yung DBM andun lahat ng pera because it is the Department of Budget and Management. The Department of Budget and Management is responsible in the formulation and implementation of the national budget. So siya yung babudget ng pera na nasa Bureau of Treasury with the goal of attaining nation's socio-economic objectives. So the socio-economic objectives will depend on the the goal or the agenda, yung normally yung mga 10-point agenda ng ating executive department. Kung ano yung kanyang priority program, yan yung naka-indicate sa socio-economic objectives. Okay, next, the Department of Budget and Management. So ikaw bilang entity, ano naman ang responsibility mo sa DBM? Each entity reconciles budget registries and budget records. So tingnan mo, budget registries and budget records ang nire-reconcile mo sa DBM. Dito, yung cash records. Sa COA, ano naman ang responsibility mo? Okay, si COA, since the Commission on Audit, balikan natin, has the exclusive authority to promulgate accounting and auditing rules and regulations. It keeps the general accounts of the government, supporting vouchers and other documents. It submits financial reports to the President and the Congress. Normally, they tag Commission on Audit as the fault finder, but as the fault finder kasi hinahanapan niya yung mali yung mga financial reports mo, financial transactions mo. But it should not be that way. The Commission on Audit should be viewed as a guardian or um, as a guardian that will help the entity or yung government agency to be able to comply with all the government rules and regulations as indicated in the state audit code or the government accounting manual. So dapat tulungan si Commission on Audit and agencies um, in paving the way to a compliant government agency. So each entity's accounting books are subject to audit by the Commission on Audit. So the supreme auditing body of the Philippines is the Commission on Audit. So sila yung kaya siya supreme is because it is final. Uh, wala nang wala nang pwedeng mag-verify on the audit made by the Commission on Audit but only itself. Okay? Okay, each entity reconciles budget registries with budget records of COA. Each entity submits financial reports to COA for consolidation. Okay. So lahat ng sinabit mo sa treasuries, lahat ng sinabit mo sa DBM, it can be audited by and it should be reconciled by the Commission on Audit. Okay? Lahat rin ng sinasubmit ng mga government agency na financial report ay kino-consolidate ni COA yan dahil siya ay magsasubmit ng report to the President and the Congress. Okay. Now, let's take a look at the GAM for NGAS. So, what does GAM means? Okay, before we proceed with the GAM, which is the Government Accounting Manual for National Government Agencies, basahin lang natin itong history related to the government accounting system o kung paano ba yan nag-evolve. There is an old government accounting system that has been used for about 5 decades before it was replaced by the new government accounting system. So, wag kang malilito dito when we say yung NGAS na capitalize lahat, yung that is referring to the new government accounting system in 2002. So merong old accounting system before na hindi identified yung tawag doon. It is referred na lang as the old government accounting system. Binago yon, which is the new government accounting system in 2002. So kailangan pa ba nating tingnan kung ano yung um, changes? Hindi na. Kasi nga, binago na rin uli itong new government accounting system. So may maraming nalilito dito. Baka mamaya, on the choices in the board exam, ay ang maisagot mo is the new government accounting system kasi iniisip mo ito yung bago. It is in 2002. However, noong January 1, 2016, yung NGAS, yung new government accounting system ay ni-replace na naman na ang tinawag na ngayon is the Government Accounting Manual for National Government Agencies or GAM for NGAS and GAS. Yung S ay small letter kasi nga yun yung plural form lang ng agency. So bakit kailangan na i-specify kasi na ilagay pa diyan? Bakit hindi na lang Government Accounting Manual? Because meron tayong Government Accounting Manual for local government units. Iba po 'yon. Iba ang rules ng national government agencies at iba ang rules ng local government units. Kaya meron pa tayong GAM for local government units is because meron tayong local government code. So merong mga provisions on the local government code that does not apply to national government agencies. Kaya nakahiwalay yung accounting manual nila. Basically, they are essentially the same dun sa mga basic concepts but on some details ay nagkakaiba sila. Sir, ano po ang orientation ng ating discussion? The orientation of our discussion is focused on national government agencies kasi ito yung talagang rule. Yung local government units ay parang yan yung exception to the rule. Okay, so our focus on government accounting is the national government agencies. Okay. So the GAM for NGAS was promulgated primarily to harmonize the government accounting standards with international standards. So ang sinusunod natin dito is yung International Public Sector Accounting Standards. Yung IPSAS ay based sa IFRS. Okay? So sa Philippine government, inadapt natin yung IPSAS at ginamit natin through the PPSAS. 'Di ba? Normally, lahat ng ina-adapt nating standards ay kinakopy natin 'yan verbatim at pinapalitan lang natin yung mga international words to Philippine. Kaya nga itong IPSAS ay ginawa nating Philippine Public Sector Accounting Standards na essentially ay parehas. So ano ang ginagamit na natin ngayon? The provisions of the PPSAS are incorporated in the Government Accounting Manual. Dahil daw yung PPSAS ay nakabase sa IPSAS at yung IPSAS ay nakabase sa IFRS and PFRSS. Most of the concepts that we will be learning in this book are familiar to you. Dapat familiar sa'yo. Kasi nga, we are referring to PFRSS and IFRSS. Okay? What is the legal basis of the GAM? Normally, kapag nasa government ka, ang laging tinatanong kapag mayroong mga financial transaction ay ano ang legal basis mo. So, kailangan ma-cite natin. So, the GAM for NGAS is promulgated by the COA based on the authority conferred to it by the Philippine Constitution. Kasi, the Government Accounting Manual has been promulgated or ang naggawa niyan ay ang Commission on Audit. So ngayon, ang tanong diyan ay bakit COA ang gumawa ng rule na ipopromulgate nila sila ang mag-audit din niyan. Dahil nakalagay mismo sa Philippine Constitution as we quote here, the Commission shall have exclusive authority, exclusive sila lang, subject to the limitations in this article to define the scope of its audit and examination, establish the techniques and methods required therefore, and promulgate accounting and auditing rules and regulations, including those for the prevention and disallowance of. So, kaya naka-underline yung promulgate accounting and auditing rules kasi nga, they are specifically empowered by the Constitution na pwede silang gumawa ng mga accounting and auditing rules and regulations related to their audit para ma-prevent itong irregular, unnecessary, excessive, extravagant, or unconscionable expenditures or uses of government funds and properties. Later, we will discuss itong mga items such as irregular, unnecessary, excessive, extravagant, or unconscionable expenditures. So, iba-iba kasi yan. Okay. Now we look with the coverage of the GAM. The GAM for NGAS provides the basic concepts to be used in preparing general purpose financial statements in accordance with PPSAS and the reporting of budget, revenue, and expenditure in accordance with the law, rules, and regulations. So, the GAM aims to update the following. Kaya binago, bakit kasi binago pa? Meron naman na tayong new government accounting system in 2002 is because gusto nilang i-update yung standards, policies, guidelines, and procedures in accounting for government funds and property, the coding structure and accounts, and accounting books, registries, records, forms, reports, and financial statements. Kasi nakita nila that the new government accounting system ay hindi niya nare-reflect na yung present condition on the financial reporting in the Philippines. Kaya binago nila pati yung mga coding structure at yung mga iba pang account titles. So nagkaroon ng changes on the account titles din. Isa rin 'yon sa isa rin 'yon sa malaking dahilan kung bakit binago nila is because they want the changes in the use of the accounting titles. At isinabay na nila yung iba pang rules related to the financial reporting in the Philippines. Okay. The basic accounting and budget reporting principles. So meron tayo dito. I think I have to end by this time. We will continue our discussion on the basic accounting and budget reporting principles na talagang kailangan mong maintindihan kasi ito na yung talagang gist ng government accounting. Thank you. Please continue on the succeeding video for more of government accounting.